Hello, and a very warm welcome to our second episode of Gate 102. Hope you're doing well. I must start by thanking everyone who listened to our first episode last week, where I talked about Gareth's first game in charge against Malta. If you haven't listened to it and you want to catch up on it, then it's available on both Spotify and YouTube. So in today's episode, I'll be following on and talking about the England v Slovenia game, which was just 3 days after. This was another World Cup qualifier, and England were well and truly top of the group, having won their opening two games and not conceded a goal. So before I go into the match itself, I'll run through the starting lineup. So once again, it was a 4-3-3 formation. Joe Hart was in goal. A back four of Kyle Walker, Gary Cahill, John Stones and Danny Rose. A midfield three, Jordan Henderson, who's captain, Eric Dyer and Dele Alli. And then a front three of Theo Walcott, Daniel Sturridge and Jesse Lingard. So that's two changes from the win against Malta. Obviously Danny Rose came in a left back for Brian Bertrand, who was out with a injured hamstring. And this was the major headline before the game, Wayne Rooney was replaced by Eric Dyer. I'll talk more about that later. It was also a 50th cap for Gary Cahill. Cahill was a player who I personally really liked. He obviously wasn't as good as other centre-backs we've had in recent years, but yeah, he always gave his all and always did a solid job, to be honest. But yeah, he made his 50th cap in this game. So moving on, and if I'm honest, although it finished 0-0, quite a lot happened throughout the game. I think Slovenia probably surprised England a lot. They came out of the blocks very quickly and put pressure on England's defence. And in actual fact, the home side had more prominent chances to take the lead in the first half. Jasmine Curtin hit the woodwork. It definitely gave England a scare at the back. The deep midfielders, Henderson and Dyer, they couldn't break through the lines, really. They couldn't pass forward. They ended up giving the ball away several times. Slovenia definitely made it hard for England in the first half. But yeah, it was a rather sluggish performance from Gareth's side. For some reason, the players couldn't match the same intensity and energy as Slovenia, and yeah, it wasn't a great watch in the first half. And if I'm honest, the second half was more or less a carbon copy of the first. England did dominate the game. They had 61% possession, but again, Slovenia had the more prominent chances, and they played with a much faster tempo than England. And Slovenia threatened again at the start of the second half. They broke through England's defence several times. I think it's fair to say, if it wasn't for Joe Hart, England probably lose this game. And potentially if England did lose this game, Gareth Southgate might not get the job on a permanent basis, and he doesn't go on to manage 102 games for his country. So I think it's fair to say we can be very grateful for Joe Hart in this game. Yeah, he made loads of saves, but the one that has always stuck with me was a save he made. I think Slovenia had a corner from the right-hand side, and there was a header near post, and somehow Hart managed to sort of tip it out of the goal. He fell into the side netting. It was whilst falling backwards. I think not a great explanation of the save, but it was incredible. Got to be up there as one of the best saves of his career. He was by far England's best player tonight. I suppose a nice moment of redemption for Hart after the back of what was not a great European Championships just 3 months before. Obviously, the talk before the game was about Wayne Rooney. He came on with less than 20 minutes to go. As I said before, I think it was the right decision from Gareth to drop him, as he was in poor form for both his club and his country. But when he came on, he did have a shot on goal, but that was pretty much it. That was his only real involvement in the game. Having said that, the other midfielders that started this game, obviously Henderson, Dyer, and Dele Alli, were also poor on the night. So, yeah. If I'm being truly honest, it was one of the games where no one really played well, apart from Joe Hart. As we mentioned, yeah, it was a frustrating night. I was reading up on some stats of this game, and England only managed 3 shots on target, which wasn't great against a side ranked 67th in the world at the time. This was the lowest amount of shots England had in a competitive game since Costa Rica in the 2014 World Cup. So that's obviously over 2-year difference there. Yeah, it summed up a bad night, really. However, there were a few positives. It wasn't the worst result in the world. It was still a crucial point towards qualification. It was a clean sheet again. Obviously, Joe Hart was performing back to his best as well. And also, it meant that England were 32 qualifiers unbeaten, which meant that they were continuing their sort of incredible record in qualifying games. So yeah, like I said, there were a few positives to take from the game. And I actually think it was a game that Gareth will look back on. I think that was a massive result in his tenure because, like I say, if England don't win against Slovenia in this game, he probably doesn't get the job on a permanent basis. And I'm not doing this podcast to talk about his 102 games. So yeah, it was a crucial point. Yeah, I think that's all I can really say about the game, really. There wasn't too much more that really happened. Obviously, the talk, like I said before, the game talk was all about Wayne Rooney. After the game, the talk was all about Joe Hart, who, yeah, we've got to be very thankful for, as he basically salvaged England a draw out of this. But yeah, next week I'll be back talking about the following game at Wembley against Scotland in what was another World Cup qualifier. Like I say, I'm sure a lot of you will remember that game, but I'll be talking about it in detail. So yeah, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next week.